Hello, welcome to Chaotic Torture RC. My name is Josh, and here on this YouTube channel I want to do some reviews, do some build-ups, give some advice and tips on different various aspects of the hobby. I've been in the hobby for 20 plus years. Currently I'm doing flying stuff with RCs, crawling, bashing, scale builds, trail builds. I don't do any racing anymore, but I used to, and learned a lot of things through the hobby, and I just like to share some of what I know with you guys and learn some from you all as well with comments and other viewers' videos. Figured for my first video today I would give some of my opinions and advice and views on the Axial Bomber. Just picked this up a couple weeks ago. I've only got 2 runs on it. One was in completely stock form. The other, I put the Axial Yeti sway bar kit on the rear and a Holmes Hobbies Trailmaster brushless motor. Didn't want to go for a whole bunch of speed, but wanted a little more than what the 35-turn stock Axial motor gave. My first opinion is for those that are wanting to buy this as a crawler. Yes, it will crawl, but in my opinion on it, I don't think the setup is optimized for crawling, because before you put the sway bar on it, when you take off, it has so much torque twist. Even with the 35-turn motor, the 35-turn lacks speed, but it's got a lot of torque, so when you pull on the throttle, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have watched videos and reviews on the videos, they'll show that front end coming up way high like that on one side while the other tire is still on the ground, and both rears are on there just from the massive amounts of torque twist that it has. Well, I for one wasn't happy with that. I didn't like that. I don't like that in any of my vehicles. So I knew I was going to be upgrading and putting faster power into it, so I went ahead and put the Yeti sway bar kit, direct bolt onto it, and I don't see any reason to need anything more than the what they use for the stock kit, unless you're going for a little more bling and looks on your rig. Then you get some of the aluminum ones out there, but I didn't feel the need for it for what I'll be using this for. Now with the sway bar kit on there, that's as much torque twist as it will ever get, and honestly, since I put it on there, I don't notice the torque twist. Every once in a while it'll squat, but it doesn't usually pull this tire up and down. I do run 3S in it, so I'm running a little bit of power. Now, can I still crawl with it? Yeah, it still crawls. I still get some articulation. I just don't get the massive amounts of articulation that it had before. But since this is more of a rock racer, I'm not using this as a dedicated crawler. If I want to go crawling, I have a Wraith I can use that for. Which brings me to another subject. I've had a few friends ask me, well, how is it compared to a Wraith? Well, if you want to ask how it compares to the Wraith, it shares the same axles. Other than that, the geometry of the chassis and the setup are actually different. It's running the shock mounted link in the rear like the Axial Yeti. So therefore you have a different reaction to the rear in the suspension versus what the front would be like on the Wraith. It runs the same transmission as the Axial Yeti runs. It has all the upgraded steel gears that the Yetis come stock, so you can run a heavier power plant in it without having to upgrade the trans gears like you do in the Wraith. Honestly, same axles, different transmission, different chassis. I want to say it's like trying to compare apples to oranges. They are just two different vehicles. In some aspects they handle similar, but in other aspects they're just two different setups, two different vehicles they handle differently. Do I prefer one over the other? No. If I want to crawl, I'll use my Wraith-based stuff. If I want to do something a little faster, where I'm going to jump, maybe bash a little harder, and I want less body roll, less torque twist, less swaying, then I will use the Bomber for that. Another thing I like about the Bomber versus working on the Wraith is with the Wraith, you either had to take out all 4 screws on the bottom to drop the transmission out, reach your hand up in somewhere if you didn't have your interior in the way, slide your transmission completely out to change the motor or the gearing or whatever, or you had 4 screws on each side of the chassis that you had to pull out, which didn't take that long, but it was still somewhat awkward, cumbersome, and time consuming, and then drop the transmission plate out of the bottom of the chassis to work on it that way. With this one, you have some screws here you can take out to drop it, but it's not necessary, because with the Yeti transmission, you have a screw on top that you undo and pull off, and then it's got a motor mounted to a plate, and you slide the plate out of the transmission. So you take a few screws out of here, this will hinge back, a couple screws, pull your interior out, undo your motor mount plate, slide it out, transmission still stays intact, a couple screws, change everything out, throw it all back in, and it's nice, done. I like that design and that concept. Another thing I like about this over the Wraiths is the Wraiths had the rear mounted battery where a lot of people had to do the mod and put it up front, bring it up front, as to where this has the hinged hood with, it's going to be hard to see on this right now, but it's got a hinged battery bracket. It's nice. The only thing to keep in mind and take in consideration when getting one of these is if you run a 3S battery and your 3S happens to be a little bit thicker one similar to this one, it will fit in there, but you have to push it down tight, and then when you're pushing your battery bar holder down, it's a little tighter, and it slightly has to bend some in order to get it closed, and it makes it hard to get the body clips on. So for this, those of you that run a 3S hard case, unless you're running the smaller ones, I don't see them fitting in here. I've had to adapt the 3S that I run in this just due to the size, but it's not that big of a deal. And this whole design here is still a nice concept. Tuck that back in there. Overall, it's a fun thing. It still has some of the axial flaws. The plastic front link with plastic steering thing on there. I'm not a fan of that with the flex and stuff. I've got upgraded parts for it. Just haven't taken time to put them back on. I had them on, then took them off to put this back to a stock looking setup. Tactic servo works alright in it for a Tactic servo, but I've only run this twice. In my last run out, I stripped the plastic servo horn, so that'll be getting a new one. No big deal. I have one. I just haven't taken the time to do it because, like I said, I want to keep this as stock as I could to do my first video and thoughts on it. But overall, it's a pretty nice setup for what it is. For those of you that want to crawl with it, just keep in mind, tons of torque twists. For those of y'all that want to use it for speed. Really, I had so much torque twist before I put the sway bar on here that after I put the brushless in, it was squatting so bad pulling this up that it was literally just doing flips like that. So I stopped, brought it in. I happened to have a bunch of Yeti parts. I put the Yeti stock sway bar kit on. Direct bolt on, only took a couple minutes to do. Made a world of difference in the handling and process of that. And I think I'm going to wrap it up on that. Thank you all for your time and for watching. If y'all have any advice or tips as well that you may want to share with the bomber, feel free to do so. I'll respond to any messages that I can, time being allowed. And I'd also like to give a shout out to the guys at Cal RC. I called on Wednesday. Today is Friday. I talked to them about what I wanted, and Matt-wise, actually I was chatting with him through Facebook on Messenger. He responded really quick. And then he gave me a number and asked if he could call me. Well, no, he asked if he could call me, and I gave him my number, and he called within minutes, and we talked. He hooked me up with this really nice 2-foot by 4-foot mat for my work table, and it came in just as he said it would. Fast shipping. He shipped it out that day. He told me if I paid by a certain time, he could have it out that same day. If not, it'd be the next day, and I paid instantly, and he shipped it that day. I got that, and I also got one of the screw catchers with the divider. As you can see, I've got some of my work. I got a wrench on there and 4-way and a screw on there. Much stronger than what I ever thought it would be. And he's a man of his word. Said exactly what they do and what they are, and it worked. I've bought some cheaper imitations out there before that just didn't do anything. They were basically like a refrigerator magnet, and these aren't your basic refrigerator magnets. They are really nice in the quality of them. The build, they feel nice and thick, kind of heavy. And it's got different headers you can put on it. I chose the one with the skulls because I kind of like the darker side of things. I don't want to say darker side of things, but I like the more evil look, and I'm not an evil person, but that's the look I'm drawn to. So once again, I'd like to give thanks to Cal RC for sending me this and doing everything in a timely manner, and the pricing was very fair. you can go to their website and look at cowrc.com, check things out. They got a lot of stuff listed on there. They sell more than just the magnets. I haven't used any of their other products yet, but hopefully within time I'll give it a check and I'll give you my reviews on this. If there's any questions y'all have, feel free to ask. I think I mentioned that before. I'm going to call this a wrap. Thank you.